Yeah, so this is I guess part two of analytics and reporting. So in order to like get into this scheduled reporting, you really should have watched one of the earlier analytics or reporting webinars. But if you watch one of those, or if you're kind of an old hand at reporting and analytics, this is going to fit what you need to see as well. Part of the reason why I wanted to get into scheduled reporting is that this is something that I think is a great time saver with the platform. And has a bunch of other advantages as well. And reporting seems like it's always one of those chores that isn't, I don't know, it's always like, I look to reporting as something that is overhead, something that like just takes a little bit of my time every week or every month that I could spend doing something else. Eric, you've been doing reporting and marketing for a while. What's your experience has been?
Well, yeah, kind of all over the map. I mean, we've all the thing about reporting being overhead. Sometimes you're reporting, up the management chain. Sometimes you're reporting across to clients and stuff. And the sort of information and the level of detail that you need to put into that. It's different from one to other. So then you're kind of half cutting and pasting from one to the other to make stuff out. And yeah, the more places that you need to pull the data from, the more of a chore it was. I remember one of my early jobs, my entire job was to take this ridiculous text dump out of like an ERP system and then just make it look presentable to somebody. It would take too much time out of the day where, there's much better ways to do it now, like that relentless marketing report that comes out from Sean every morning that always formats the same. I always know the data's up to date and I know exactly how well I'm doing or not doing.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's interesting about our reporting is we report internally, and we actually have a daily one that we use to that just automatically gets sent out every morning, and we can see how things are going. It's easy for anyone to see how things are going internally here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic. So, yeah, maybe I'll just kind of get into things here. So, primarily the things we're going to be going over are reporting tempo, what data is built into ActiveDEMAND, like what you can do tracking that's just built into it, what you can integrate or import into ActiveDEMAND, and then we'll go through building a basic weekly report and then a more advanced monthly one. First, why scheduled reports? Well, like kind of what Eric was alluding to. No one gets into marketing to copy and paste their life away, but that's exactly what we ask people to do right now. In a lot of marketing agencies, when you get new hires on, this is their job. This is their purpose in life, is to copy and paste from Google Analytics and various ad platforms into these Word docs or Google Docs that they then get sent to a client every month. And it's not really exciting work. There's a lot of potential for error when you're copying and pasting and manually modifying numbers. And it's going to happen if you have to copy and paste into these sheets. You will eventually have to have oh, whoops, that's not supposed to be there, kind of a conversation with a client. You'll be reviewing a monthly report and you'll see a number that is clearly wrong, clearly copied from the wrong spot, and you'll have to explain it away on the spot. Hopefully, I mean, if you notice it. The other thing that scheduled reporting solves for is a couple of questions that clients or stakeholders inside your company will have. There's that, is it working? Is the marketing working? Like, that's a constant worry that people have who are in stakeholder or positions of power. They're constantly doubting whether the things are working right now. So it solves for that, and it also solves for how's marketing going right now. Is it going well? We had an email that went out last week. Did we get any leads from that? Like all these kinds of questions that if you find you're getting them on a very regular basis, where people are like picking and like asking these things, one, that's good because it means that they're engaged. But two, it might mean that you can actually solve for that with a scheduled report rather than manually doing it. And that's really what we'd like to encourage more of our clients to do, is to use the scheduled reporting that's built into ActiveDEMAND. And that's why I'm presenting today, to kind of show how it works and how you can use it. So first, What traffic can you track that's kind of in active demand? And I'll just talk through some of these because a lot of people assume that, oh, maybe I got to do some work with this, or maybe they're familiar with some of these things, and it's actually pretty easy. So website visits, you configure it once. As you go through the wizard when you're setting up active demand, you'll add the tracking script to your website. Done. Never have to think about it again. It's just tracked, and all the traffic that's normally tracked going to your website is also going to get tracked in active demand. Normally, notice I loaded that up normally. there's sometimes some traffic that gets to your website that we'll have to add some tracking to. One example would be social posts. So a lot of the social platforms like Facebook and that kind of thing, you don't really get great tracking from. So with those, if you perform social posts, scheduled social posts from within active demand, it'll automatically tag those links. It'll automatically add the tracking parameters to those links so that you can track that traffic back to the campaign that you're running, or if you just have like a general social media campaign, you can track it back to that. Emails from active demand, automatic. It's going to encode those, and you'll be able to see the clicks and all that kind of stuff off of it. So back in the olden days, you had to manually add these Google Analytics URL parameters to your email programs so that you could track the stupid things. It's built into ActiveDEMAND. It just works. Google Ads is something you have to configure once. There's some really great help articles in engage.activedemand.com that helps you figure that bit out. But the long and short of it is you integrate it in the administration panel. You set up your value track parameters inside Google Ads, which is like a template. It's this one long string, and that's it. You're done. You add it once. With Facebook ads, there's no template yet that they have in that functionality that I've seen. So with that one, generally you add tracking parameters to the ad link that goes out, and it's this, you have to do it anyways to be able to get that tracking inside Google Analytics, right? So same, yeah, you're doing both at once. Bing, yeah, configure once on there. They do have tracking templates. If you even care to do Bing, it works really well in some industries, and in a lot of others it doesn't really. And then we have short links. So there is a short link system built into ActiveDEMAND. So if you want to add a link to a print piece of collateral that you're sending out, you can do that onesie twosie, or as part of like a bigger campaign. If you want to generate a bunch of short links and then share them out with some people and then kind of track which one's driving the traffic and the conversions, you can do that as well. And that's built into ActiveDEMAND. Next, what kind of conversions can we track in ActiveDEMAND? Because this is important when we're thinking about scheduled reporting. We have to have these conversions tracked. A lot of stuff is kind of like built-in: form fills, appointment scheduling, live chat tracking with compatible live chat platforms. Phone calls are built into ActiveDEMAND, and I have here configure and then lead processing, because really all of these things could be a conversion that you're tracking as a sales-ready lead or as a goal. But it's really up to you how you track those and how you set that up inside the lead processing. Next, we have those short links. Those can be set as conversions if you really want to. And then CRM one sale. If you want, and if your CRM is possible to connect to ActiveDEMAND, I'd strongly recommend you do, because what you can do is, yes, push the leads up into the CRM. But then once there's a sale in that CRM, so the person actually bought, you can send that back down to ActiveDEMAND. And now you have this really strong case where you can show, oh, for each channel, here's how many visits we've got, here's how many leads we sent to sales from this channel, and here's how many won deals we got off of this channel. That's a very powerful funnel visualization that you can do, and a very, very powerful way of seeing, is my marketing working? And I think that's important. For other things that you can pull in, there's a bunch of other things, and I'm going to talk about some of the basics, just because I want to make this practical, and I want to make this something that you can turn around and do something with today. And the primary stack that I care about: Google Analytics, Google Ads, Facebook Ads. And there's some other stuff in here that may be important to you, and I'll review it, but maybe not. The last one I have on there, Google Sheets. You can pull cells from Google Sheets into ActiveDEMAND. And since you can do that, world's your oyster, basically, because if you were to use like an API to pull data from the platform you want data on into Google Sheets, that can then pull straight into ActiveDEMAND. Or if you use something like Supermetrics. Supermetrics is like this Google Sheets plugin that like can pull data from, oh geez, they got a ton of different ad platforms. You can pull that into Google Sheets, and then that can get pulled into ActiveDEMAND. So it's interesting when you think about it in terms of scheduled reporting, because if ActiveDEMAND is your pulse, if that's your metronome to when reports go out, and it's pulling from all these other places, it makes it a little bit more hands-off, which is good because you spend less time on it, spend less brain power on it, and it just goes out, and you can spend more time analyzing the results and less copying and pasting. So let's look at Google Analytics. Google Analytics widgets can be built by going in through the report widget library under Analytics inside the ActiveDEMAND platform or interface. And then you can select the Google Analytics. This is assuming that you've already gone through the wizard and you've integrated Google with ActiveDEMAND. And when you click on it, you start building out the widget. There's a schwack ton of options in here. You can see here that I've chosen to select goal completions as my metric. When you're thinking about scheduled reporting, it's really important that we hit on the KPIs, and goal completions is a great one. And you can see that the dimension I'm choosing, what I've chosen to break it out with, is with channel grouping, which channels are driving goal completions. So this is a nice basic KPI widget. Next, I need to give it a name, give it a title, and don't forget to hit the publish button, because if you don't publish it, it won't do anything. So we've got that thing saved out. That's now a widget that we can use in dashboards. So if you have dashboards that you want to create inside the ActiveDEMAND platform that collect a bunch of KPIs, you can do that. And we can put into scheduled reports, which is what we're talking about today. The next one is Google Sheets, and this one I didn't have as much experience with it in the past, but I recently dove in and did a bunch of stuff with it, and it is like the possibilities are really, really interesting with it. So to set this one up, you go into integrations, and then you add a third-party application. So this is where you connect to each individual sheet. And that's because you don't want to just connect and give access to all the Google Sheets that you have in your drive to everyone who has access to the account. So we only connect to one sheet. So you can see here I've connected to SEM spend, and I've connected to a specific sheet under, I don't know how Google defines this, a sheet under a sheet? Is that how Google, I'll show you here. Let's pull it up. So this is the sheet. It's called SEM spend, and the sheet down here is also called SEM spend. I don't know. Anyways, we select out, we choose the cells that we want to get access to and use inside that widget. So when we come back here and we take a look at that widget, is it going to go from the start? Come on, Google. It's not that hard. It's just a presentation. You can do it. There we go. You can see that we've connected those. So we've got those connected. The next thing we're going to do inside the widget that we're building is select the cells that we want to specify. So there's a couple of different kinds of widgets. I chose the table one. So for a table, you generally want a range. But you could, if you're just doing one KPI, you could just choose a cell and go with that. So that's building out that Google Sheets widget. I just want to show you what that looks like, because it's pretty interesting. So here's my dashboard. Keep in mind, these widgets are available in scheduled reporting as well. I'm just showing them here because they're easier to visualize. And you can see there's that SEM spend table. There's done and to do. Now, this one you probably saw coming, because that's something you'd want to do. There are these platforms that maybe don't have integrations. I have to manually update them, and I would just manually update them here, and then they can be used inside my ActiveDEMAND reporting. So if I'm using like maybe some DSP or maybe some TV or other offline insertion, I can add that in here, put whatever I need to in here, and then I can access it inside my dashboards and inside my scheduled emails that go out. But one thing that you didn't potentially think about, or I didn't think about until I got into it, what if you had like a done and to-do list, and then you put that into the report? And you can. So the interesting thing there is that for your monthly reports, you could potentially add in some of the tasks that you've done, and then the tasks that you have to do that you're planning on doing in the next month. Again, this is best for a small scale report in terms of like the amount of customization in here. I wouldn't want to put like a paragraph in here, but you can see it would work just fine inside that dashboard. So really interesting way of using ActiveDEMAND, really interesting way of getting that kind of data inside ActiveDEMAND to then put into a scheduled report. The next one is Google Ads, and if most ad agencies and most companies' marketing departments are using some sort of Google advertising, and we have again a ton of reports that are available in there. You choose the style of report first, and then the metrics and the dimensions and yada yada yada, filtering on top of it. So you can very easily use Google AdWords reporting inside. I showed it as an example here in my sheet here, Google Video Ads or Facebook ads, but realistically, you could directly access those from within a widget that you build inside ActiveDEMAND. The next one's Facebook. Same idea. So you integrate it inside the account settings area inside ActiveDEMAND. Make sure you're authenticated, and then inside the widget builder, all the options you could possibly want. You've got them all in there, and they're all using Facebook terminology, so a little bit different than Google Ads, but we've got, again, a ton of data that's available in there as well. So now that we've got all this data, the next thing we need to do is think about defining the goal, or defining like what's the KPI we're after. So in some companies, this would be an MQL or marketing qualified lead. In ActiveDEMAND, because we have this concept of sending a lead to sales, we have something called a sales ready lead. So a sales ready lead is something that's automatically defined as soon as you email a lead to a salesperson. As soon as you use that action item inside a workflow that says email to sales, contact passes that, they are now a sales ready lead. Easy, right? So that's one. That's one that I like to use. Another one that is super duper flexible is posting a custom event to Google Analytics and then keying the goal off that. And the reason that's super flexible is that you can actually pop those custom events into workflows. So inside your lead processing, you can filter. I want this person. I don't want this person. I want people from here. I don't want people from there. I want people who are in this kind of a list, yada, yada, yada. All the filtering in the world. And then you can key off of that, send a custom event back to Google Analytics. Yep, that one was a conversion. And then if you really want to, you can turn around and pull those GA stats back into ActiveDEMAND if you want. So if you really like the goal completions or the channel breakout, or you've done something custom inside Google Analytics and you want to pull that into your reporting, super easy to add widgets inside ActiveDEMAND that pull that kind of stuff from Google Analytics. And then won deals, of course. So we'd want to see the channels that are driving won deals and what's going on. So a bunch of good stats that we can pull there. When we're thinking about reporting tempo, that's more on how often we want to send it and what we want to send it in. I'm going to like put in some personal bias here and talk about how I've done reporting and how I've seen reporting done. For most agencies out there, they perform at minimum monthly reports. So a monthly report would be to the client. It would cover KPIs, what goals have been accomplished, what channels have drove the most conversions. In general, you don't want undefensible statistics. And what I mean by that, you wouldn't want something like bounce rate in there. That's not a statistic that's necessarily relevant, because it could go up or down based on the month, and your leads could be going up every month. So really, you have to have KPIs that you put into these things that are either the direct thing that you want to measure, or something that has kind of an established link. So if you know hey, if we get 100 clicks off PPC in this campaign, we're going to get 5 leads, then maybe reporting on the traffic would be important as well. And of course, this is based on your stakeholders. Whatever your stakeholders ask for may be something that you have to report on as well. The weekly reports are nice to have in a high-performance team. This is something that I've frequently seen as a horizontal share. So if you're in marketing, you share your marketing statistics with sales and with VPs and with everyone else that might be a stakeholder. So everyone gets to see how marketing's doing on a weekly basis. That's something that I've seen super common. And then daily, Eric mentioned that at the start of the call, daily reports help with accountability and really help with accountability between marketing and sales. So if you're generating leads, it is super interesting to, if you have an accountability issue, to report on the leads you're sending to sales. Hey, sales, we sent you 5 leads today. Here are the names of the people and their companies that we sent over to you. And then wait and see what happens, because that's really going to ramp up your accountability. So far we've talked a lot about all the bases that we needed to build to get to scheduled reports. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because you have to have this stuff anyways. You have to have all those report widgets and your connections all set up to get to this scheduled reporting. But now we're there. We're ready to start getting into it. So inside the interface on the left-hand side, there's the report scheduler. And inside there are reports and report schedules. You need to start with the report and build those out first. And the reports look like everything in ActiveDEMAND that uses the same builder. So we've got the email that we've got in there. We've got content and whatnot on the right-hand side that we can drag into it. So I'm just going to find where there it is. So we can drag in structure where we could choose 1 column, 2 columns, whatever. This is a real ugly, hacky example I've got in front of you here. Please make yours match the brand that you're trying to represent and hit on the statistics you want. Inside content here, I'm just going to go down to the widget categories just to show you some of those. So inside Google Analytics, I've got a whole bunch of pre-built ones. And right at the bottom here, there's my GA widget that I just built, that best GA. Did I include it in here? I didn't include it in here. Let's drag that on. That's my KPI one that I wanted to have. There we go. Boom. Now I've got that Google Analytics one in there as well. And I've got, first conversion attribution, maybe sales ready leads. So how did they first convert those sales ready leads and how did they come in? And I can just add to this thing. So you can see I've got a couple of Google Sheets things in here. I can throw in some text and whatnot and so forth. So again, you access those inside this content area here. If you have Google Sheets stuff, they'll show up in here. If you have Facebook stuff, your generic ones will be here, and then your custom ones will be in there as well. And then there's all the other reports and widgets that you have access to inside ActiveDEMAND, which there are a lot of. So don't put them all in there. Don't try to throw too much stuff in here. The risk of adding too much stuff is that people can't easily answer that question I talked about up front, which is it working? You have to quickly answer that. Is marketing working? Are we getting the results we want? Is it doing what we want it to do? My example account here doesn't have a lot of real data in it, so this is going to look a bit weird. Yeah, you don't even get that. Oh, there we go. Neat. Okay, I did get my my grouping for goal completions with GA. So got a little bit of test data in there. You can see I might want a title on this one that says leads and where they come from. And here you can see I have order it in descending order on goal completions, and I have the channel groupings over here. So that's on purpose. I want to show the most important one first, and you can see that I've got organic search, direct paid, email. I've got those channels in there, and then I've got some of the Google Sheets data as well. So interesting stuff. Great way of building a report. And this is a super flexible builder, so you can build these how you want. And you notice I didn't fill in the campaign. You don't have to. If there's no campaign associated with it, you can just choose to leave that off and build this thing out. So we've built out a report. Next, we have to get into the schedule. So our schedule, these are actually pretty easy. Let me just go build one here. Let's go into report schedules. Let's build a new one of those. Let's call it, yeah, sure, weekly vice president KPI update. Sounds very swanky. Let's go into our reports. Let's choose the report we just built. Our audience, let's send it to VP Bill Jones. This is something that he's going to need. Again, campaign, I don't need to fill that one out for now because I'm covering the whole account. Frequency, let's do this weekly. Bill's an early riser. Let's get him right at 5 a.m. And let's do last 7 days. This is covering the report range of the data that's going to be in there. There's the frequency, how often it's going to go. So every Monday at 5 a.m., Bill is going to get that report, and it's going to cover the last 7 days of activity. Bill's super special weekly report. And I can make that active. And that's all I would need to do. Now I have this report scheduled. It's going to go out weekly at 5 a.m. for Bill. When it comes to building the reports out, I just got some notes here on some of the different styles of reports that you can build and what you might want to think about when you're doing them. For those basic weekly reports that I was talking about, I would really recommend keeping those to essential KPIs. Sales ready leads last 7 days is really good. And then the other really important thing to consider, compare to goal. And the reason why that's important is that just emailing people out numbers, we got 10 this week, we got 8 this week. Is that good? Is that a good number? And compare to goal is a very easy way of reporting whether that's a good number or not. So that's I would encourage compare to goal. You could do compare to last 7 days, but really most people can't remember what's happened in last week or the week before, that kind of thing. Compare to goal is an easy one to include there. You may want to break it down by channel, but that is, I would say, optional because that's your ball of wax. Whether you're getting more leads from Google Ads or Facebook Ads or SEO, if you're in marketing and you're the marketing manager or the agency, that is really your responsibility. And the client should only really care about leads. They might care about channel. You might have to include it anyways. Again, like I was mentioning, avoid unessential statistics. Raw traffic might be that. Fewer stats make it easier for stakeholders to follow along, and it makes them less likely to come to the wrong conclusion. If you report on bounce rate and it gets worse one week, they will come to their own conclusions on why it's worse that week, and you don't want to be in that situation. And then automate it. Automate this stuff. Again, every time you got to pull yourself away from the everyday stuff that you're doing and get to one of these reports and copy and paste from them, it's overhead time. A more advanced monthly report. So now we're going to change things. Sales ready leads last 30, broken down by channel. Definitely want to do that. You may want to include one deals by channel. So this is like a once a month thing. We're going to see which of those channels is really bringing home the bacon. And I think that's a great way of doing it, just looking at which one is generating one deals. You may want to look at ad spend. So this is where we'll have to report on how much money we've burned in the last 30 days. So that's important. And part of reporting on that we'll take result by channel, and results might be traffic just because the person who's paying the bills might want to know that, right? So that's one thing to consider. Another one might be tasks completed or tasks to do. And you saw how we could do that with Google Sheets, and we could include that in a scheduled email. So that's something you might want to consider. So this is something that would be automated, something that's going to go out every month on an automatic schedule. But you may want to include some manual entry where you just say, okay, everyone pop into this Google Sheet and update what you've done and what you've got to do. Everyone's got to do that. And then the email just goes out. And you don't have to think about it. That's a nice thing to be able to do. You just update a sheet, and then the machine does the rest. That's very nice. And again, a lot of marketing agencies out there, they get the newbies in to do this kind of thing, and those newbies will spend 3 hours, let's say, on every client doing one of these reports. Start adding up the opportunity cost of them spending time doing this reporting and not doing client work, and it adds up to some big bucks pretty quickly. Some other tips or tricks: if sales accountability is poor, send a list of all the leads to the sales manager. So basically, what I recommend in this situation is to set up a scheduled report from ActiveDEMAND that pulls the list of all sales-ready leads, their names, their company, send it to the sales manager, because the sales manager should be responsible for turning those leads into sales and finding out what's happening with them. So this is really a tactic to help stop sales from squandering the leads, really, and make sure that they actually follow up on them. My next tip is more specifically for marketers. Use value track parameters to get campaign, ad group, and that kind of detail from Google Ads, Facebook, and Bing, and stuff it into ActiveDEMAND. It's really nice when you're looking in ActiveDEMAND, you see, oh, there's a lead came in. It's nice to go take a look and see, like, oh, how'd they get there? What was the story on this person, and how they arrived to us, and find that out. So a couple of really quick tips about scheduled reports, and that's about it. So that is the presentation.